José Youngs here with FanSided MMA and Sports Illustrated MMA. Standing next to James Lynch, who's been with me all week. Nick Baldwin, new face of the video. We're live on the scene of the TUF 27 finale at the Palms Resort in Las Vegas. We'll start with you, Nick. You've interviewed a bunch of the TUF winners. Out of the two winners of the featherweight and lightweight, which one was more impressive to you?
To me, it has to be the featherweight winner, Brad Katona. Not because of the Canadian bias or anything like that, but as far as the fight goes, I think he was a lot more dominant. The co-main event winner, Mike Trezano, still put on a good performance. He got the win, got the trophy, got the UFC contract, but it was a bit of a a slower fight, and Brad Katona really took it to his opponent. So I have to go with Katona.
And you want to play devil's advocate and try and argue that the co-main event was a more exciting fight.
Well, it's a tougher division. I think lightweight, as we've seen, it's sort of a group of killers. And the thing I look at with Trezano, he wasn't expected to win this fight. So the fact that he went out there and did it, overcame a bit of adversity, to me, that was really impressive. Brad Katona, I think if you looked at this fight on paper, was expected to get the win here. So there's your devil's advocate take.
And you guys are both from Canada. Katona's the first Canadian TUF winner, correct? TUF winner, outside of the TUF Nations.
Yeah.
He's the first Canadian winner to win a outright TUF. Is this a big deal in Canada? Are you guys I'm sure you guys are happy, but have you been waiting for this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult to see Canadians just make it on the show. There's been a few in the past, but Katona going in there basically as a bantamweight and having to fight at featherweight, and now he's won the show. Very impressive, and it looks even better now, for SBG, which now has a Ultimate Fighter winner under their belt.
And I'll ask you the same question because you interviewed Katona very early in his career.
Yeah. To me, it's definitely a big accomplishment, but especially considering the fact that this could be the last Ultimate Fighter, especially the last one for sure on FS1. But then, I guess in a way to play devil's advocate here, it might not be as big of an accomplishment just because TUF has sort of gone down a little bit. The ratings have dropped over the years. Not as many people care about the Ultimate Fighter these days. And so going forward, we've seen a lot of TUF winners in the past few years not really go all that far. Some have done very well, others have not. So winning TUF just doesn't mean quite as much, but it's still nonetheless impressive.
And before we jump to the main event, because I'm sure we have a lot to talk about on that, out of the prelim fights, outside of the TUF winners, which fight impressed you the most?
Gerald Meerschaert, man. Here's a guy who was losing the fight, and he came back and won, and he seems to do that a lot in his UFC fights. And Oscar Piechota hadn't lost in his career, so Meerschaert hands him his first loss. Meerschaert, gets the finish again, too. 4-1 in the UFC. He's a guy that we're going to have to start talking about as not just an underrated guy, but a guy who can, definitely make some noise in the middleweight division.
Nick, same question. Which fight outside of the TUF fights and the main event impressed you the most?
I was very impressed with UFC women's flyweight Roxanne Modafferi. She looked, very tremendous, coming off a pretty close but clear loss to Nico Montano, the current champion at 125. This was the best way possible to rebound, I think, from that fight back in December, beating, a fighter she lost to in the past in Barb Honchak, a very well-known name in women's MMA. That was a tremendous performance, and I think she looked more dangerous than she's ever looked on the ground as well. I think it was a tremendous performance.
And I'll say I was most impressed with Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy. I believe this is his 19th or 20th fight in the UFC. He's fighting on the prelim card or the undercard of a TUF fight. He's in one of those positions where do you go? What's your level? And he's still putting on one fight of the night, and he's fighting 3-round fights against people that people don't want to fight. So I'm gonna go with Alex Caceres, fellow Arizonan, fellow Weeb. So I gotta go with him. Jumping to the main event, did you expect Izzy Adesanya won 2 50-45s, 149-46, but a lot of people agree he won all 5 rounds. You thought Brad Tavares was going to win. We were talking before. You were very adamant. You thought Brad was going to get it done.
Yeah.
How blown away were you with Israel Adesanya's ascension and performance tonight?
Very blown away, and I really think we have a star on our hands here in Israel Adesanya. We saw the post-fight presser, and just the performance tonight, I think it was better that he didn't finish Brad. People would say, oh, Brad got caught or whatever. The fact that he went out there 5 rounds, dominated the fight, he really impressed me. And this was, I think a lot of people can agree, this was a huge jump in terms of his performance in the Marvin Vettori fight to the performance that we saw tonight. He's still relatively young and a guy that seems to be getting better every fight and really comfortable in the octagon, getting a main event spot on International Fight Week. This was a really big performance. I know there's people going to be lurking the YouTube comments, kind of saying, oh, he's not a star yet, but I think we really have a star here, and I think if the UFC's smart, they fast-track this guy a little bit and really sort of push him into stardom.
Nick, same question. Did you think Brad Tavares was going to win? Did you have Izzy?
I had Izzy, but I didn't think we'd see a 50-45 decision, mostly across the board. I think 2 judges had it that way. Maybe all of them did. A dominant performance from Izzy. And, as James said just a second ago, he looked so much better than he did just a few months ago against Marvin Vettori in Phoenix. Maybe that was because Marvin likes to work on the ground a bit more than Tavares, and obviously that works against Izzy. And moving forward, that's how fighters are going to, how they're going to beat Adesanya. But, I thought he looked much better. The striking was crisper, and we saw a bit of ground game, too. Not too much, but I think enough. And going 5 rounds was super impressive. I mean, I even asked him about that after the fight. Going 5 rounds, was that easier than expected? And he had admitted that, yeah, it was. And I think, as James said, we have a star. And, interestingly, after his debut, I wrote a column saying they need to put Izzy Adesanya up against not great fighters and build up that highlight reel. I was mistaken. Brad Tavares is a ranked guy, and he just he didn't mop the floor with him, but he looked very impressive. So
yeah, and I tweeted this. I can't remember a fighter I've been more impressed with than Israel Adesanya after 3 fights. Like, yes, Conor McGregor ascended, but I believe his 3rd fight was against Diego Brandao in Dublin, and Diego Brandao, great fighter, not a top 10 featherweight. Brad Tavares, his only losses are to Whitaker, Romero, and then he got caught by Tim Boesch. Israel Adesanya just put a 50-45 on him. But we'll close this out. This has been James Lynch. You'll see more of him, obviously. Nick Baldwin, first UFC event coverage. 18 years old, just graduated high school, so great things to come. We'll be on the scene for UFC 226 at the T-Mobile Arena tomorrow, so stick around on the Facebook page and the YouTube page. But until then, see you then.